Victor Okojumbo insists he's still the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Falls appeal court judgment that overturned the order of the State High Court barring Mewula and others from parading themselves as Speaker and members, says he will challenge the decision of the appellate court. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority suspends operation of 10 private aircraft who hold the permit for non-commercial operation PNCF for failure to commence recertification. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, right here on Channels Television, our global headquarters, broadcasting live from Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Ozong. It's a Friday edition of the show, and right here we do one thing, to track what is going on in the polity, whether it's the economy, politics, or governance in general, including security. So let's bring you up to speed with what we've been tracking today. The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has flagged off the resettlement program for persons impacted by conflict to the Mbere community in the Gabi local government area of Kaduna State. During the exercise, the Vice President who commended Governor Ubesani for his inclusive governance approach and reuniting the people of Kaduna State, says President Bola Tinubu is interested in building peace and unity across the country where every citizen will live without fear. And away from that, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, NCAA, has suspended 10 private aircraft operational licenses for holding the permit for non-commercial operation known as the PNCF and failure to commence recertification. The agency announced this in a statement by its NCAA Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, that's Mr. Michael Achimugo. Excuse me. The statement has the affected jet operation operators to include Azikel Dredging Nigeria Limited, BLI Aviation Safety Services, Ferry Aviation Development Limited, Matrix Energy Limited, Maritime Management Services Limited, Worldwide Skypath Services, Martini Airline Services Limited, Aerolead Sky Limited, Skybird Air Limited, and Exuma Jets Limited. The statement adds that the NCAA has deployed officials to the General Aviation Terminals, that's JAT, and private wings of the airport to monitor the operations of the PNCF holders, as the agency will not hesitate to initiate enforcement action against any PNCF holder found guilty of illegal operation. You'll recall that on June the 27th, 2024, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo, had alleged that some private aircraft are being used to launder money, drug trafficking, among other illegal deals, while asking all PNCF holders to undergo recertification. And now to Rivers State, where the House of Assembly, led by Victor Okojumbo, says he will challenge yesterday's decision of the appeal court on the State Assembly crisis. The Speaker of the group, Victor Okojumbo, said this during plenary earlier in reaction to the appellate court's decision. He believes the appellate court or the appeal court erred in its decision. The lawmakers who met at the temporary chamber in Government House, as pronounced in the executive order by Governor Siminala Fubara in December, also considered two bills for the day.
We strongly believe that the Court of Appeal was in error when it held that the Rivers State High Court lacked the jurisdiction to hear and determine suit number PHC 1512 CS 2024. Accordingly, we have instructed our lawyers and they have filed an appeal to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, challenging the judgment of the Court of Appeal delivered on the 4th day of July 2024. There cannot be two houses of assembly in Rivers State or indeed in any other states in Nigeria. This House of Assembly, with me as the Speaker, is the only House of Assembly in Rivers State. Martins Amegwe and 24 others, in spite of all their pretenses, are no longer members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, and they remain so until a court of competent jurisdiction says so.
Well, that's not all. The governor, similarly, Fubara, during an inspection, told journalists that governance comes with challenges, but however, he believes the worst days are over.
I know that a lot of you will be wondering what is going on and all those things, but government has its own challenges. If you go to the book of Psalms 23, Psalm 23 verse 5, he said that God prepared a table before you. It can be anybody, it can be me. But there is an underword that he noted there. In the presence of your enemy. So it means that nothing comes easy. I want to assure you, every one of you, and the good people of River State, that we are not deterred. We have made our promises. We will continue to give you good governance, no matter what it is. But like I said before, the worst is over. We are moving on to ensure that we continue to provide what is needed for the development of our state. I believe by next week we should be visiting Degema, we should go to Ahoda, we should go to Obebema and Omok, and also ensure that we visit that of the main one. You know, we promised that we're going to do a model general hospital and psychiatric hospital in Rumibo. We'll make sure that we visit them and see the extent of what's going on. But for now, we're satisfied with what we're seeing. We're assuring the good people of this zone. When we say zonal hospital, it's not just for the Kana, it's not for the Gokana. Even my own constituency, Popo Nkoro, will also benefit from this facility. So we'll make sure that we put it to completion and good use.
Well, yesterday, when it came to the issue of the Court of Appeal decision concerning the controversy of our River State House of Assembly, we looked at the legalese brought a senior advocate of Nigeria, Wahab Shittu. Today, we want to talk to the people involved, the political parties involved as far as that is concerned. That will be part of our first conversation. Before we jump to issues around the state of the nation, controversial issue, by the way, but we'll bring you all of that after our political roundup stories.
FCTA has distributed 50 operational vehicles and communication gathers to security agencies to aid the operations in the fight against criminality in the nation's capital. While presenting the equipment to the head of security agencies, FCT Minister Nyesom Wike explained that enhancing security is a key priority in President Bola Tinubu's administration. He charged security operatives to give their best to ensure safety of lives, properties, or residents of the seat of power.
We avail you with what the security agencies do every day and night. You'll be surprised. The kind of crimes they have stopped, the kind of criminals every day they arrest to make sure that we move on with our lives, we carry out our businesses without any hindrance.
Ondo State Governor Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa has re-emphasized his government's commitment to support the judiciary in enhancing the administration of justice and democratic process in the state. The governor made the declaration in Akure, the state capital, while approving the appointment of 11 new judges into the state judiciary. Governor Aiyedatiwa notes that this appointment is the first of its kind since the creation of Ondo State in 1976. With the appointment of 11 judges, the number of judges in the Ondo State judiciary has risen from 24 to 35.
And faster administration of justice, thereby reducing congestions in our courts, a demonstration that our state is a beacon of progress where the rights and dignity of all citizens are cherished and protected.
Governor of Osun State, Ademola Adeleke, has inaugurated the 5.3 kilometers of Banami-Busa Link Road connecting two fast-growing urban areas in Delta State. Governor Adeleke commends his Delta counterpart, Sheriff Oborewori, for bringing meaningful development to all parts of the state, just as he urged road users to imbibe a good maintenance culture.
If it's not doing well, I will say I will not go. But I'm here today that my brother, Sheriff, you Sheriff, very well. He Please, Gentiles, I want you to support me.
Meanwhile, the chairman caretaker committee of Omuma local government area, River State, Mr. Promise Reginald, says the fixture of the local government area council polls by the River State Independent Electoral Commission for October 5 is a sign that Governor Spinilai Fubara wants peace in the state. Speaking with Channels Television in Omuma local government area, Mr. Reginald says having a fixed date for the council elections will help to resolve the ongoing leadership disputes in the local government areas, urging the former local government area chairman to get prepared for the polls if they want to remain in office. Lastly, some youths under the aegis of Middle Belt Youth Association are calling on President Tinubu to ensure that competent people who want this administration to succeed are appointed into parastatals and agencies of government. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the Secretary General of the group, Michael Ahundu, notes that Nigerian economy is in a serious dilemma and there is urgent need for a better approach to save the country.
We applaud the efforts of the current government, and we are not blind to the fact that with years of poor management of the country by previous administrations, it will take some time to reset the broken edges of the economy. The truth, therefore, is that although fellow Nigerians are hurting, some patience is needed as we find our way through this dark, painful period.
Welcome back. Yesterday, we spoke to the lawyers to find out the judicial implication of what happened at the appeal court concerning the issue of River State House of Assembly. Today, I want to talk to the politicians of what they are making of that particular judgment. We're being joined in the program by the caretaker chairman of the APC in River State, who joins us from our Abuja studio, Mr. Antonio Kocha. Mr. Kocha, good to see you again.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're also being joined in the program by the PDP leader, Rivers East-West, Mr. Name Ewo Robinson. He joins us via Zoom. Mr. Robinson, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mr. Kocha, let me start with you. I'm sure you heard the soundbite, but before we go to that soundbite, what's your interpretation of what played out in court yesterday?
Okay, the Court of Appeal judgment yesterday was ice-breaking. It was profound, it was sound, it was incorruptible. The reasoning that led to the decisions of the three-man Court of Appeal panel are germane. In fact, I see one of the judges who even did what she did. I was so interested. She said that because of the fact that these matters are not properly before the court, that anybody who ventured into it was doing what she referred to as was foreign into inanities. Let me just summarize it with that word. Okay, but it's sound in law, and I want to say to you that it's going to settle a lot of grouses. It's going to settle a lot of gray areas in this state. Because at least, hitherto we have had orders of court, left, right, and center flying. Some are procured in the night and all that. And of course, the Court of Appeal was clear about them. And having put all of the matters in one, like consolidation, it means that any party that is feeling not happy with the judgment can ventilate. They can go to the Supreme Court. That is the apogee point of the law. So I think it's a good one for Rivers people. It is justice for Rivers people. It is justice for Nigeria. I wouldn't have expected anything less. I was with one of your sisters, and I said that the entire gamut and the foundation and the background of jurisprudence in Nigeria would have fallen like a pack of cards if the Court of Appeal had said that a judge who had no jurisdiction to handle a matter delved into it and did what he did. And it was clear that the issue of jurisdiction on this particular matter rested on the Federal High Court. And the High Court judge has no business with it. Okay, so we are happy. Rivers people are happy. I think I watched the governor saying that better days are ahead. Okay, whatever it is, whoever feels undone, whatever be it, should approach the Supreme Court. I also saw the speaker when the speaker I saw one Oko Jumbo when he claimed that, in fact, he came on television to say that the Court of Appeal was in error. I do not know him to be a lawyer, even if he is one. I do not know that he is superior and above the Court of Appeal. He shouldn't have made such comments. Those are unguided statements.
All right, let's take it to Mr. Robinson of what he makes of that judgment. So, Mr. Robinson.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. We can hear you. Just your reaction.
Unfortunately, I cannot hear any of the things Mr. Soni said. But suffice it to say that the court has become part of our electoral process. Whether politicians knows these days that he's beating hands down, the next place you see the politician is in the court. Given the Court of Appeal judgment yesterday, the Rivers State government, the House of Assembly, even as a party at the state, we are not deterred by that court judgment because we have two windows. One of the windows is to appeal that judgment in the Supreme Court, which the House of Assembly has already directed the legal entity to do. The second window is that the judges of the Court of Appeal have clearly told us that, look, these persons have defected. We are not touching the substance of the matter. It's only the issue of jurisdiction, which they say the State High Court lacks. They have simply directed us to file a proper suit at the Federal High Court. Whether the APC, the 27 lawmakers led by Martin Samoa, are still members of the State House of Assembly, based on the Court of Appeal judgment yesterday, it's the material, they are not there because the Court of Appeal did not say so. The Court of Appeal did not also invalidate the declaration of their seats vacant by the then Speaker of the House of Assembly, Right Honorable Edison. So whatever celebration they are doing today, or whatever thing they think the Court of Appeal has awarded them, is a temporary relief. It's just like somebody who has cancer and you are giving a paracetamol. That is the position they are. We have headed to the Supreme Court. We're also going to file a proper suit at the Court of at the Federal High Court. But the state government cannot be shut down. Even the Supreme Court cannot give a ruling that can shut down the Nigerian government. The Court of Appeal judgment yesterday, or order, cannot shut down Rivers State government. Rivers State government will continue to run. Like our governor said, and he kept saying it, that the war is over. But beyond politics, have Nigerians taken their time to ask exactly what the FCT minister wants in Rivers State?
No, let's not, Mr. Robinson. I want us to stay on the issue of the courts. We'll maybe, if we have time, we'll come to the issue of FCT minister.
We are appealing the judgment. The Speaker says so today.
I got that point. I just didn't want us to mop up the issues. You know, when we come to the issue of FCT minister and Mr. Fubara, the governor, we'll talk about that. Mr. Okocha, he said that, because I haven't seen the CTC, I'm looking forward to getting in my hands on a copy of it so I can speak on good authority on some of these things. But some of you were in court and some of the pronouncements that were done. I know there were 11 prayers, which I always refer to. And one of the prayers, part of the prayers was the issue of upholding the suspension of Okojombo and others, also nullifying their actions and meetings and resolutions and anything they do. What was the position of the Honorable Lord Justices at the appeal court? Because it appears from the conversation we're having, there were no pronouncement about defection and all of that. It was just about you went to the wrong court. Go and file your case in the right court.
Yeah, my dear friend, I have the enrolled order arising from the judgment of the Court of Appeal yesterday. And I would like to, just for a few minutes, or while in passing, say this. Let me read this to you, and maybe let my friend also be obliged. It is hereby ordered that, 1, this appeal has merit and it is hereby allowed. 2, The trial court lacks the jurisdiction to hear and determine the suit filed by the first to third respondents. Consequently, suit number PHC1512/CS/2024, Right Honorable Victor Okojombo and 2 others versus Martin Chike Amegule and 24 others, is hereby struck out. Consequentially, that's the word, consequentially, parties are to return to the status quo ante bellum. Please, I'm sure that maybe when you invite the lawyers, the senior advocates of Nigeria, they'll be able to interpret what status quo ante bellum means. But in my own little knowledge of it, you know, we have all become pocket lawyers. My own little knowledge is that the status quo is, at the time, in fact, before the matter was instituted in court at all, because the Court of Appeal has said that you cannot put something on nothing. The order of C.N. Wale was, of course, nullified. The one of what's his name again, the other judge, was also declared a nullity, which means there was nothing before them. You know, so this is the road order of the court. Please, you can go find a copy of it. Make sure that it doesn't look like
I'll take that question, what you just raised now, to Mr. Robinson to respond to what you just read, because I don't have the privilege of that information.
Good.
But I do know that the preliminary prayers of Mr. Amewule and others has to do with basic housekeeping, to file and take it as a record, abridge time, accelerate hearing, and then ex parte motion to suspend proceedings in that particular court. But there are other substantive issues that I wanted to hear whether there were enforceable decisions of court. Mr. Robinson, your response to what you just read.
The Court of Appeal said the lower court, the state high court, has no jurisdiction over the matter. And by my primary knowledge of law, once you declare that there is no jurisdiction, you have no orders to make further. So the matter ends there. We have gone ahead to appeal the issue of jurisdiction. Whatever order the justices make is tantamount to the state high court. They said the state high court overreached is judicial overreach. That is judicial overreach. You said you have no jurisdiction, the matter ends there. You cannot go ahead to make any further order so long as there is no jurisdiction. So we have gone ahead to challenge the issue of jurisdiction. Whether there is further order or not is judicial overreach by the justices.
All right, let me come back to you, Mr. Okocha. I know that in perhaps at the height of some of these issues, the feud that has happened between Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, and his predecessor, and his successor, I beg your pardon, Governor Similana Fubara, a lot of things had happened, and you've made several calls. Calls like a state of emergency, calls for impeachment and all of that, or moves, if I get you correctly. Now that it's clear that Okojombo is insisting on occupying that seat, you said he heard in law, and we heard him say, the appeal court heard in law, according to him. You also heard the governor saying, look, the worst days are over. What call are you going to make next?
Well, first and foremost, let me say to you that what my friend Chief Ewa is doing there is what we refer to as irredentism and revisionism. And it doesn't help issues. You know, when you also go back to the Platonian allegory of the cave, you'll be shocked. You know, people just come out and churn out opinions and all that. Instead of, the governor has said that all of this would be over. I'm sure that what the governor is thinking is that whatever he's doing will pander towards peace. Not this revisionism that we're looking at. How can after a court of appeal had given judgment, non-lawyers like my friend Chief Ewa will now be the one to interpret the court of appeal judgment? Is that not an aberration? It's an absurd. Okay, so now to go down to the issue you have raised now. The feud between the governor and his mentor. I have said recently in one of my scripts that Governor Fubara is Wike's political investment. And I went ahead to define what I meant. That from civil servant to candidate of the party and delivering him in 23 local governments out of 23, the first in our history. All of these were Wike's ability to maneuver. And he pulled through. And now the governor is saying, the former governor has said, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm only saying that you are destroying the structure that even produced you. And if you're a politician, I am one, no politician will allow his structure to be dismantled. Nobody will do that. Because when you do that, it means that you have no home, okay, to fall back to. So that is the issue. It's not about any other thing. The governor have not come to say, look, there's a feud between us. He's asking for money or not money or whatever. And let's Rivers people know and dissect all of it. Okay? Now the issue with the call we will be making is that the Court of Appeal judgment should be obeyed. It should be seen as sacrosanct, is a given, it should be obeyed. And until the apogee point, the apogee court, the Supreme Court, overturns the judgment, the law is as it is today, as pronounced by the Court of Appeal. So it is not within EWO to limit the learned justice of the Court of Appeal, limit them to whatever he wants. So it's done, it's gone, and it's gone. The issue there is status quo ante bellum, return back to what it is originally. So if the Court of Appeal gave them the window
I didn't want to interrupt,
properly filing the matter before the Federal High Court, we will be there to wait for them.
You know, sometimes status quo in law is almost a very difficult thing to interpret, depending on the lawyers. I've spoken to a couple of lawyers, and different interpretation to a status quo ante bellum is like the offside rule in football, kind of complicated to interpret, depending on who you're listening to and the biases of that individual in law. Is Martin Ameul and others, are they planning to have a sitting? What is the action they are taking if they are saying it has returned to status quo? What are they doing now?
They will certainly enforce the order of the Court of Appeal, the judgment of the Court of Appeal. It's untainted, it's clear, it's unambiguous. You know, at their time, assembly and their projects, their programs, are not one. So they have their processes, they have their programs. It's possible that they're on recess or whatever. So let's wait. Today is Friday. Tomorrow is weekend, Saturday and Sunday. That's this weekend. Let's see what happens from Monday.
All right.
And I think that Nigerians should begin to condemn this. When I see some lawyers and some responsible Nigerians come to television to espouse John Dee's opinion, I say this is not right. Look at G60, according to the man called Igo Chiere, that is leader of G60. Now, when they told the media people, got across to the commissioner for Justice and Attorney General, his response, that he relies and buys into the decision of G60. G60, is it a social club? Is it a high court?
Mr. Okocha, I want to have
G60?
My apologies, please.
Now, G60 is
just hold on. If I may button, please. If I may button, Mr. Okocha. Mr. Okocha, if I may button, please. My apologies, so that I want us to really stay focused on some of the issues. Let's go to Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson, we are now dovetailing into the political arena. So it is time for me to ask you the question about your party, the PDP, at the state level, to onlookers, appears a bit docile, appears a bit ineffective. The governor himself had said, look, he is disappointed. He's like, this is now a movement for them because they've been let down. What's your response to that? Because we can see Okocha, Mr. Okocha and his team very forcefully. He's made calls that they say it's alarmist and all of that. But they are making an impression as a political party defending their people. But we haven't seen much of the PDP. What's going on?
You see, the same thing this political gladiator did in the House of Assembly, they did it to members of the National Assembly. They also did it to the party. I'm not a party chairman. I'm a Rivers West senatorial district. The same thing, exactly the same way they hold on to the House of Assembly was the same thing the way they hold on to the party leadership. But by the grace of God, more than half of the party we pulled out and joined Fubara. Aaron Chukwuemeka, by their own design, is the acting chairman, even if the 3 months has elapsed, by their own design. The secretary, Edibo, is with them, the legal advisor. So they destroy this, they hold on to the structures of the party at the different levels of the state. The state assembly, the local government, the party. But as a party, we decided to come out strong behind Fubara. We cannot behave the same way the assembly members.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Robinson, I understand.
We cannot behave the same way the chairman will.
My sincere apologies.
So those who are bent on destroying the state, bringing back the state, hold on to all the structures the government to advance development in the state.
All right, Mr. Robinson, thank you. So, look, the reason I asked that question, at the party leadership level in the state, we don't see much of an action. We don't. So that's why I'm asking, so that you can speak on for them.
The state is sharply divided into two.
Okay. We're winding down.
The number.
Okay.
The National Assembly see the number. The local government see the number. But the party, out of 33, we are 17 with the governor.
All right, we're totally out of time, Mr. Robinson. Thank you so much. Mr. Okocha, let me come to you in 10 seconds, if you can. The last time I asked you the question about whether now Martins Amiewule are now members of your party, registered card-carrying members of your party since they defected. Do you now have answers for me now that the appeal has been sorted?
Yeah, thank you. You know that I declined.
You have 10 seconds.
No, I will not answer. Yeah, the truth of the matter is that neither Martins Amiewule, the Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly, nor any member of the Assembly, the 25, neither of them is a card-carrying member of the All Progressives Congress. Neither of them has their names in our register. What we were doing at the point with them was we were weighing them. It is our duty to woo people into the party. And we were weighing them to join us. We were not saying that they are members of our party. No, we were weighing them to come because they seem to be hopeless, they seem to be helpless in the party that produced them. Of course, you saw them espouse and evince a lot of arguments why they should not.
All right, Mr. Okocha. Absolutely. So I'll take it that they are not members of your party by documentation. That's how we'll take it. So they are still... I don't know whether they are members of the PDP. It's almost a bit confusing. Tony Okocha is the caretaker chairman of the APC in Rivers State. Name Ewa Robinson is the PDP leader in Rivers State. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll now switch gears. When we come back after this break, we'll touch on some controversial issues, including that Samoa deal, that agreement that has generated controversy. My guests, they will be joining me to have their opinion on that as well as the state of the economy. Join us again.
Did you know you can access electoral information with just a click? Introducing Nigeria Elections, an inclusive artificial intelligence platform that guides citizens on Nigeria's electoral and civic landscape. Say bye to misinformation and disinformation. Visit www.nigeriaelections.ng today. Nigeria Elections, addressing democratic questions.
It is new, it is unique and of international standard. Maduka University. Maduka University, a modern university of international standard with modern facilities for learning, committed to training entrepreneurs across different fields of human endeavor, offers admission to students in different courses such as law, accounting, medical lab science,
cybersecurity, mechatronics,
mass communication, nursing, pharmacy, ICT, computer engineering, civil engineering, JUBE program, and a lot more. Maduka University is located in an environment of serenity, safety, safety and security at Ekwebe, Nsukka, Enugu State. For more inquiry, visit our website madukauniversity.edu.ng or call 0805-509-1802 or 0915-789-3107. Maduka University, the place for the transformation you seek.
Who's your guy? See how sweet they like beans and rice. And those people, I will never leave your side. I will never ever. I dedicate my time forever, time to you, my people. Even if the road be rough, I know mine. 'Cause together we shall stand.
Make we all come out on election day and vote Olumide Osaigbavo Akpata, Una guy, as governor of Edo State. He ready to change our story and bring better life for we and our pikin them. Vote Labour Party, the party for Papa, Mama and Pikin. Make we vote well, oh. Oluji, confirm. Now you be our guy. Labour Party, forward ever.
Olumide Akpata.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Joint Senate and House of Representatives Committee on Works call for memoranda and invitation to investigative hearings on the non-completion of the 15-kilometer Eleme on a section of the East-West Road and the absence of Reynolds Construction Company on site, termination of contracts by the Federal Ministry of Works on the dualization of Obajana Junction to Benin, namely Section 2 Okene Auchi, Section 3 Auchi Eho, Section 4 Eho Benin, dualization of Ibadan Ilorin Road, Section 2. Oyo Ogbomosho, date Monday 8th July, venue, Conference Room 231, New Senate Building, National Assembly Complex, Abuja, time 11 a.m. Companies who have been paid mobilization for emergency road projects and have not mobilized to site as listed. The Honorable Minister, Federal Ministry of Works, stakeholders and the general public involved in the aforementioned projects are invited to an investigative hearing scheduled as follows. Date Tuesday 9th July 2024, venue, Conference Room 042, House of Representatives Building, Abuja, time 11 a.m. Chief Host, Senator Godswill Akpabio, President of the Senate, Special Guest of Honor, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, Speaker, House of Representatives. All memoranda are to be submitted into Committee Secretariat on or before the 8th of July. Signed, Senator Berinada Mpigi and Right Honorable Akin Alabi.
All right, welcome back. It's the last leg of the conversation for today, and just call it the state of the nation. But one of the things we want to start with is that particular Samoa agreement that has been causing controversy. So just as a background, Nigeria signed up to this agreement called the Samoa Agreement that involves the EU and Africa, Pacific, and other organizations in that particular agreement. So this is what the controversial, just if you guys can hold it there for me. So EU, European Union, and Africa, Caribbean, Pacific states signed an agreement. And some people raise flags on some of the provisions of that particular agreement. It's called the Samoa Agreement. So that's Article 2.5. The party shall systematically promote a gender perspective and ensure that gender equality is mainstream across all policies. A lot of people are not comfortable with that. The argument here is the fact that there's a suspicion that this is an implicit or indirect way to introduce LGBTQ into Nigeria, which our laws are against. I mean, the Same-Sex Prohibition Act 2014 or 2013 is clearly against. So you can see that second provision. The party shall support universal access to sexual and reproductive health commodities and healthcare services, including for family planning, information and education, and the integration of reproductive health into a national strategies and program. If we can go to the next article, which is Article 36.2, the parties commit to the full and effective implementation of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action and the Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development and the outcomes of their review conference, and commit to sexual and reproductive health and rights in that context. So these clauses are what the agitators are saying you have to take it out, else Nigeria should unsign this agreement. And there are even constitutional issues as to the issue of duality of concepts when it comes to domesticating this kind of law and all of that. So it's a gamut of issues. Bagos Dachong is a former lawmaker. He joins us from our Abuja studio to weigh in on this, as well as other issues, as well as my guest right here in Lagos, Inibe Effiong, a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Let me start with Mr. Dachong. I don't know whether you're privy to this agreement, but maybe your quick take. Nigerian law is very clear. I think Section 1 or Section 2 also of that law clearly states that same-sex is prohibited in Nigeria. And Section 5 talks about the penalty for same-sex marriage up to 14 years and define the issue of what marriage is in Section 7 of the Same-Sex Act, clearly stating man and woman. And so clearly by culture, by convention, we are not in the business of the LGBTQ, clearly. But people are saying these clauses are suspect and it should be expunged. I want your take on this.
Yeah. Well, Geoffrey, you have said it all in that perspective, that anything we do as a people in this country, we are being guided by the law. And if National Assembly have already put the law in place against any unforeseen circumstances like this, we will still be bound by the law, unless we now see that as an amendment is being passed to the National Assembly as an executive bill or any citizen bill to amend the Same-Sex Prohibition Act of 2014. That is where we'll be able to raise much alarm. But with what the Samoa Agreement have said, we can define it in whatsoever terms as Nigerians who want to define it according to our own law. But still, the red flag is necessary. But again, the end game is if we now see that there is an amendment that is being taken to the National Assembly, and which is another angle that the executive, the federal government needs to weigh in more sensitization to sensitize Nigerians on aspects why it has to sign the Samoa law, which it has to, because I know that, okay, it has to do with climate change, it has to do with protection, governance of the ocean, and so on and so forth, and most especially the funding that government will get from it. And again, this is the issue. These are issues that you get from when we are so focused on getting funding instead of us looking inward on how we'll be able to be self-sustained. And so these are issues that we'll be able. These are issues that we'll face anytime we have to sign one or two agreements because of funding. But clearly, we already have something that what is guiding us as people, which is the law. The law is the law. There's nothing like that. It's invalid in Nigeria. Even if someone is coming from out of the country to practice it in Nigeria, it's invalid, not only for Nigerians, but same-sex marriage or any of those is invalid in Nigeria, and we're going to stand by the law. But like I said, the red flag, we need to have more explanation by government.
All right, let me come to you, Mr. Enibe. The federal government has come out to say it has nothing to do with LGBTQ. It's about developmental issues. But people, we had a gentleman, I think Sonny is his name, who has been in some of these rooms, say when those languages are used, they are suspect. And for him, it has to be expunged. Should we take the explanation of the federal government enough, or what's your take on this particular issue?
For me, I think the starting point is to say that by virtue of Section 12 of our Constitution, the 1999 Constitution as amended, no treaty between Nigeria or the Federation and any other country shall have the force of law, except to the extent to which such treaty has been enacted into law by an act of the National Assembly. In other words, why it is an international principle or principle of international law called Pacta Sunt Servanda, that parties are bound by international agreements. And Nigeria, as maybe in some sense, an assumed responsible member of the international community, is expected to comply with treaties, international conventions and agreements and so on. To the extent that those agreements have purposive effect or are tended to have coercive effect on Nigeria, in other words, that those agreements are expected to be enforceable, they must be enacted into law by a National Assembly. Now, regarding the Samoa agreement, what the federal government has come out to say, in a rather, dismissive tone, that, look, this has nothing to do with LGBTQ. I beg to differ to an extent. If you look at Article 15 of that Samoa agreement, there is a very interesting language there. Look at Article 15. And it prohibits discrimination of violence based on gender, based on political orientation, based on sex. But interestingly, it also says sexual orientation. And what is sexual orientation? Sexual orientation includes and emphasizes LGBTQ. So I don't think the federal government, I think it amounts to intellectual duplicity, with profound respect, to say that the Samoa agreement does not have anything to do with LGBTQ. The argument that should be had is, having signed to this agreement, having become a state party to this agreement, can it supersede, can it override, can it take precedence over the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act? My understanding of the law is that the answer is unanimously in the negative, namely that because an act of the National Assembly has clearly prohibited same-sex marriages and same-sex relationships in certain ways, international conventions, international agreements cannot defeat that law. Now, for the federal government to even make it enforceable, right? Because I need to make this point clear. You can't enforce a law, a penal legislation, either through prosecution or by just being unwilling. That is what the Tinubu administration can do, is that they cannot record, for example, tell the police, we don't want you to arrest members of the LGBT community. That will be consistent with the Samoa agreement. So they don't necessarily, because I heard the guests in Abuja say that they need to go to National Assembly to amend the act. Every person who understands how governance works knows that matters of law enforcement are executive responsibilities. So if the president, for example, has a conversation with the Inspector General of Police and says that, look, in view of the Samoa agreement, in view of the benefits Nigeria and this government stands to gain, I do not want to see LGBT community people being arrested. That will be promotive of that agreement. But I must say, but to the extent that we have a subsisting law known as the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act, the Samoa agreement does not grant any immunity to members of the LGBTQ. But the conversation that we must further have, because I have seen this thing in Africa, where African, leaders seems to make the LGBT argument more or less about politics and so on. So I just needed to make that point, that on the basis of law, the Samoa agreement cannot take precedence over Nigerian constitution.
All right, Mr. Dajong, let me come back to you. So for you, if this is this controversial, and even the document recognizes that that European countries themselves are divided over some of these issues, shouldn't we just ask them to expunge it and be clear as far as the status of LGBTQ is concerned? Because we know where we stand. We're not confused as a country.
Oversee of such clauses, for me, it's supposed to have been an issue that could have been discussed by the parties before signing the agreement. Because further controversy is that, yes, in as much as it has not defined or it has not clearly and explicitly said this is what gender equality is talking about in the agreement, or this is what and what. For the fear of the culture we are in, and even with the law we already have as a people, it could have been further discussed and for it to be expunged, or either way, or for further consultation. But mine, and as a lawmaker, I will stand with my guard that, look, there's already a law, and there is no piece of agreement that can supersede the law, the constitution, or an act that has been passed by the National Assembly and signed into law by the president. It is not possible. The president cannot even give an order against the law that don't do this or don't. The law is the law. Whatsoever, the president is guided by the law, so whatsoever directive that the president will give will be according to the law. So to some of us lawmakers, we are still guided and bound by that, unless, like I said earlier, an amendment is being said. But again, further consultation, further discussion, further academic exercise to explain those clauses on what gender equality means. Is it gender equality between a male and female? Is it gender equality between male and male or female and female? So that is the fear of Nigerians, and which I believe that the government should come out to do further explanation and consultation, to be transparent, to understand these issues. Because I believe that the EU and AU, they should be able to understand the contextualization, and every country has its own culture, and whatsoever right that you want to be obeyed, it should be, first of all, start with the culture and the customary law of such countries.
All right, Mr. Dachong, within the time we have, I understand we have just a few more minutes. I wish we had maybe 10 more minutes, but we don't have that. So let's hit this as much as possible. Let's come to the issue of the economy. The president, a few days ago, inaugurated the Economic Council, not NEC this time, but made up of government officials as well as people in the private sector, some of the top guns in business. We expect an injection of about 2 trillion into the economy in different sectors. The question I have for you, you have been a lawmaker, you have done oversight in some of these things. How far-reaching can this be, given where we are as a country?
For me, from experience, looking at government in, government out, the same thing is being done. The same people have been recycled as economic team, the same kind of guidelines and so on and so forth. I expect that government could have gone further to do more than what we are seeing, because every government has either have economic advisory team or economic, but you see the same set of people year in, year out, and we are having the same problem. So why can't we now start having new faces that will come into the economic team, look at this? Where are those technocrats that we believe can be able to look at these issues across party lines? What has happened to young Nigerians that we have seen that have been trained all around? And unfortunately, most of them are leaving this country. So where are the policies? Because for me, year in, year out, we have seen Nigeria borrowing policies that we try for quick fix. At the end of the day, it doesn't work. Another administration comes in and it abolishes it, start looking for another policy to come in. We need to look at these issues. But for me, what I have seen so far on ground, I don't so much believe that it will have much impact.
All right, Ms. Anibe, your take on this particular issue as we wrap up.
I think it will be delusional, with profound respect, to expect that Alhaji Aliko Dangote and others will change the Nigerian economy. These individuals who have made money for themselves, they are lifetime economic advisors to every government in power. It is just window dressing. Dangote is not going to solve our economic problem. He's a man who is driven by profit. So he's not going to devise policies that will promote the Nigerian economy and against his own interests. But let us be serious. This president does not understand the reality, the urgency of now. You cannot be speaking about changing the economy and you are still dissipating public funds on things that do not matter. This is a president that we were told had expertise in gathering technocrats. Where are the Tinubu technocrats? They are nowhere to be found. One year after, this president has not come out.
All the people around him, Wale, Edu, Cardoso, all of these guys.
They are busy with things that matter to them, but clearly not the interests of the Nigerian people. Because we have not seen the policies. We have not seen the actions. What we see is the sustenance of the culture of West. You cannot say that in a country that inflation is abominable, electricity tariff has just been increased again, right? Price of fuel is going up. The cost of basic commodities is escalating. The government is not addressing that. They are wasting money building, edifice for the vice president, wasting money on the convoy of the president, trying to buy a new aircraft for the president in an economy that has almost collapsed. These people are not serious, and they should admit it. They are taking Nigerians for granted, and time is running out. Look at what is happening in Kenya. Why are they so insensitive? They are not reading the handwriting on the wall. That the Nigerian people are being pushed too far. You have today the Kenyan president speaking on X, addressing over 120,000 people. I listened to it directly.
Right.
In 1 year, Tinubu has not spoken to Nigerians. So how can he understand what we are going through? It is impossible.
Okay, that's a lot in quick succession. I must thank you both for coming on the program. Mr. Dachong Bagos, former member of the House of Representatives, definitely we need to have this conversation again, as well as Mr. Enibe Effiong, legal practitioner.
We have, Geoffrey, we have a lot to talk about the economy of this country.
We have a lot
and because it's no longer about party, it's about governance, so all of us need to come to the table to see that either administration in power succeeds. So that's my concern, because a lot of Nigerians are suffering. So we need to proffer a solution.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. I must appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Well, let's hope that Nigeria gets better. That's the hope of everyone. But we must also say here that it is time for the handlers of the president to come forward and begin to speak. I'm talking about people like Ajorin Gelale. I'm talking about people like Bayo Nanuga. I'm talking about the Minister of Information. He's doing some pressers, but we need more media engagement. We are the media. Our job is to speak on behalf of the people when there are issues, so that there will not be speculation and convolution of things that are unrealistic. Let's have a conversation. And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Did you know you can access electoral information with just a click? Introducing Nigeria Elections, an inclusive artificial intelligence platform that guides citizens on Nigeria's electoral and civic landscape. Say bye to misinformation and disinformation. Visit www.nigeriaelections.ng